Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and today I have a video that is a little bit of everything, a little bit of a wrap up, recent reads, current reads, and a reluctant yet hopeful TBR. So let's start with recent reads or the books that I read in the month of March. So the month of March started very hopeful with TBRs all over the place. And then I started with middle grade. I participated in the middle grade march. I love middle grade march. And I read one book off of my TBR list, and then something just happened. And I just, like, in my brain, I just felt moody about my reading and left my TBR list and just mood read through the month. So I started with Roll With It by Jamie Sumner. And this is about Ellie, a I think 12-year-old seventh grader, more or less, girl who is a wheelchair user. She lives with her mother, who is a single parent household, and in a single parent household, single mother. And mom gets a call that her dad, Ellie's grandpa, needs help. And he is diagnosed with dementia, possibly Alzheimer's disease, and decides that they will need to move to where the mom decides that they will need to move to where her parents are so that she can be a caregiver to her parents. And Ellie is then moving with her mom to a different part of the country, to a different setting. So they go from like being in the suburbs to being in a more like rural setting in the United States. And she's at a new school where she's challenged to where she has to make new friends and new expectations. Mom is very concerned and very involved, and that was difficult for Ellie in her previous school. So it's a lot of like Ellie kind of coming into her own. And if this book were a pastry, it would be a jelly donut, because like the outer part of it is there's a lot of family. So like the 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 bread of it is like all family stuff. But the best part of this novel is the filling. It's that in the middle there's this like jelly of friendship. So you get to see how Ellie makes new friends, and it is such a sweet story of friendship and what friends can do for each other in difficult times. And I love that. So if you are looking to read a book about a middle grader, middle schooler who is finding herself and making new friends, and friends is at the heart of the story, this is a great novel. There is disability representation. And it's just a very sweet story of family and friendship. And I really also liked the element of Ellie being with her grandparents, whom she like adores, but also whom she's having to like understand because grandpa is now confused, right? And he often, like in one point, he not that he forgets Ellie, but he's confused and he thinks Ellie is his daughter, not realizing that it's his granddaughter. And so it's interesting to read a book about a child learning to understand what happens in the brain and what, how to support and love her grandpa through the confusion and through the disease process. So that was really, really great to read. Highly recommended. I think I gave it like 4 stars. I went between the ebook and the audio on Everend. And then I immediately after that, Everend gave me a recommendation to try You Don't Know Everything, Jilly P by Alex Gino. And I thought, yes, I loved George. I read George a few years back and really liked it. And I thought, I really want to read this other novel by Alex Gino. And it was really, really sweet and really good. So this is also, I think, is about a seventh grader, more or less the same age as Ellie from Roll With It. And it's her name is Jillian. And she goes by Jilly. So Jilly P is her name, and she has this really like funny way about making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, the JP Jillian Petrillo way, and she has a special name for it. I forget how. Like it's a PB and J or a J. It's a JP PB and J sandwich. I think that's her signature sandwich. So it's really funny in that way. Like, she has her quirks, and she's also an avid fantasy reader, and like she loves all things fantasy. She's on like a social media um, forum that is fantasy themed, and I just like part of it's the conversations that she's having online with her friends on the internet, and the way that all of that is is like written is really cool. Um, and I think that this novel really talks about how to empower children to say what's on their mind, but also to have difficult conversations. So Jilly P is learning about disability, like becoming aware of disability, what to say, what not to say, how to show someone that you care and that you are interested in them. Um, and then also grappling with racism and white privilege. And at one point, she has to understand and communicate what she's thinking. And at a point in the novel, she tells her parents, like, why don't we talk about this? I want to talk about this. Why don't we talk about this? And I thought that was really important. It's really important for kids to know that they can go to their parents, or they can go to safe people around them and say, like, I really want to talk about this. Can we please talk about this? And it was also really cool to see a child, Jilly P, struggling with learning what to say, when to say, like all of that. Like she makes mistakes, she says the wrong things here and there, but she's learning, and so are we. Like we are all, even as adults, we're still learning how to say things, how to care, how to be empathetic, how to show empathy in the right way, in the way that shows genuine care and does not take away from a person's like own, like their self, their identity, their power, their essence. And so it was really really neat to see Ellie work through some of those things and know that, even as you grow older, you're still learning, and you're always, learning new things, and how learning better ways to communicate. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I actually did recommend that to my in real life bestie. Um, she has a middle grader, and I recommended it because I thought it was a really good book. I told her, you might want to check this out and see what you think, but I think it's a great book for a middle grader. I then tried Mañanaland by Pam Muñoz Ryan on audio, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. It's a fantasy. I'm wondering if maybe with fantasy I need to have the written form, the paper book, because that happened to me with the Las Cuentista last year. It didn't happen with the Rover story last year, but it did happen with the Las Cuentista, where I felt like I needed to. Yes, it was cool to listen to it, but I also wanted to have it to like follow along. And maybe Mañanaland needs more time. I don't have that book on like the paper book, the physical book. So I DNF'd it for now, but I am interested in getting back to it. I also participated in the Week of Weird, and this is another one where I started with this like full TBR to fill every prompt, and I had a plan. And then that Week of Weird, I traveled to Austin, which I was expecting to travel to Austin, but I just thought I'd have more reading time, and I didn't. So the only book I got to read for the Week of Weird was Shark Cart by Emily Habeck. And this was a buddy read that initially started with Crystal at Fiber Artsy, and then she put it on her Discord, and I think other people on Discord followed along with that. And Shark Cart was a really great book. It is a book about, so it's not a romance, it is a love story. It is a book about a marriage. It's a book about two people fall in love, get married, and in their newlyweds phase then discover that he has a genetic mutation that eventually will turn him into a great white shark. And then what do you do? How do you handle that? And how do you grieve like the loss of a future? Like you had plans to have a family together. There were career plans that he had for himself that now he's no longer going to have the opportunity to pursue. And you're going through this anticipated grieving with this couple in like the sweetest, most delicate way. Like I feel like the grief and the loss that they're experiencing, the anticipation of grief, is handled with such care and delicacy. It didn't feel at any point in time like traumatic or difficult. It just felt very sensitive, and I really appreciated that. And it is complex because then it goes back into, so you have the dual perspectives, you have his and hers perspectives, and then you have dual timelines. So you're seeing the present, which is the marriage, these newlyweds, and what's happening with him and his mutation. And then you go back in time to her childhood and you get to see her family life and her relationship with her mother. So it's a relationship about a marriage, but it's also how this woman's relationship with her mother influences a lot of what she's feeling and going through now as she's anticipating the loss of her spouse. And it is very complex. That's all I want to say about it, because I do think that it's important to read it, and I don't want you to be spoiled by the story, by anything that I have to say. But the complexity of it all is, it was difficult to, like, at some points I felt like there's a lot going on, like we're constantly going back and forth, and I actually really really love the present day, like what is happening in this marriage, and I was really interested in it. So initially it was like, why are we going back, like I didn't feel it was necessary, but it did pay off. So I stuck with it, and I just kind of let the author tell the story the way the author wanted to tell the story. And I think in the end, Emily Habeck really was a great writer. She wrote a really lovely, beautiful love story, and the way that she chose to tell it did enhance my understanding and my empathy towards the woman. Ren is the wife in the story, the protagonist. So that was Shark Heart. I gave Shark Heart, I believe, 4 stars. And then I had checked out The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn from the public library, and I meant to participate in the Diverse Reads book club, and that was the book club pick for the month of March. But that week that we were supposed to meet for that book club was the same week that I was traveling, so I didn't get to go to book club. But I still read the novel, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually recommended this to my boss this last week. It's such a great book. If you love historical fiction, I think this is a great read. This is World War II historical fiction. It's based on real life people during World War II from the Soviet Union. This woman's story, she's I believe, the first Russian sniper, and in World War II, first female Russian sniper in World War II. And the story, it starts with like the day before the war started, and then she's out, with her friends. She has all the, like, you get to know her. She's a reader, she's a librarian, she is studying history. I think she's working on her PhD in history. And then the war breaks out and she joins the military, and like the story goes from there. This story is told through the war, but then also part of it is in the United States. So there is some traveling that happens, and this main character does get sent to the United States to rally support from the United States, and she crosses paths with Eleanor Roosevelt. So I really liked that relationship as well. I really liked the way that relationship was told. I'll mention that Eleanor Roosevelt later, but after I read that book, I just felt like inevitably I wanted to read something by Eleanor Roosevelt to complement my reading of this. And I had something on my nightstand, and I thought, like, okay, this is the book that I'm taking with me to travel. As I was traveling, that was the book that I took with me in hopes that I would get to reading it, but I didn't. So it's going to be on my TBR, and I'll get to it in just a little bit. And then I picked up a book, an audiobook that was recommended via the audio book app. And it's in Spanish, it's nonfiction. Encuentra tu persona Vitamina by Marian, Rojas, Estapé. And I'm like 2 hours from finishing it, and I just DNF'd it because it wasn't at all what I thought it would be. So Encuentra tu persona Vitamina is that translates more or less to find your vitamin person. And I thought this was going to be a novel about friendship and about community and about relationships with other people. But for the most part, it was more about finding yourself and being that person for others, which, okay, so do your work. And it especially talked about parent-child relationships. So I don't have children, so I felt like some of the stuff that she talked about was not applicable to me, and I didn't really want to read about being a parent because I'm not a parent. I have read parenting books in the past because I think it is important to know about parenting, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to read a parenting book at this time, and not from that perspective. Like not in the way where I'm all of a sudden I'm reading a parenting book, but it's not what I was expecting to read. Like I want to read a parenting book because I'm interested and want to pick it up, not because all of a sudden this book I picked up is a parenting book and I wasn't expecting it to be. And it also was a book about like the parent-child dynamics, which then had me reflecting a lot on like my childhood and my relationship with my parents. And I just thought like, I don't know that I want to be reading this book and going like back and like doing my like these are maybe conversations that I want to have in a therapeutic setting with a therapist, but I just felt like it was bringing up things that I really didn't want to have to like process right here, right now. I felt like, okay, some of these things that it's memories or things that it's bringing up for me are things that I want to talk about, but I want to talk about it in a therapeutic setting. So for self-care reasons, I just also felt like, I think I'm going to put this away because I do think that some of the things that she mentioned were important things to consider and things to work on to be your best self. But I also thought there's a time and place for these conversations and for these kinds of this kinds of work. I do appreciate self-help books, but sometimes you just have to be very careful with self-help books that they are coming to you at the right time and place, but also that you have the support that you need to process the books. So as someone who is, a social worker and does counseling, like I just feel like you really need to be careful with self-help and the timing of the self-help and making sure that you have people to take care of you as you're working on some of the things that self-help books can bring out when you're reading them. And then I also listened to the audiobook of Violeta by Isabel Allende for the Fierce Reads Readathon. That was the group read. And I listened to the audiobook in Spanish. I prefer novels in Spanish. I most of the time I feel like that's about right. Like I tend to prefer the Spanish to the English. So the English version is in translation. So I really enjoyed the Spanish audiobook of Violeta. I gave it 4 stars, and it was surprising to me who the audience was. So it was told in first person, and I didn't realize who the audience was until like the last fourth of the book. And when I found out who the audience was she was talking to, there's just part of me was like, really? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I wanted the audience if I wanted to discover the audience to be someone else. So that part was just a little bit on my end, a little bit disappointing because I wanted the audience to be someone else. But it was a great story. Isabel Allende is a great writer and she tells good stories. And it was definitely a book I enjoyed overall. I enjoyed reading. So for current reads, Girlfriend on Mars by Deborah Willis. I picked this up because I have been tagged in a couple of tags that I'm working on. And one of the prompts in one of the tags sent me down a rabbit hole. And I found this book, Girlfriend on Mars, and it had been on my TBR. And I thought, I want to read it now because I think this is a book that I could mention in this prompt for this tag. And I just had read Amelia in the month of February. Prime Meridian, I did the review for it in March. And it was really good to, I think I had thought about reading it last year when I first read Prime Meridian. And it was really good to read it following my reading of Prime Meridian. There are two different books. So Prime Meridian is darker, it's more sad. This one, Girlfriend on Mars, is funny, it's lighter, it's satirical. So it has me smiling and laughing a lot, which is just what I needed. Like, I feel like it was just good timing of this book. It is also like a book about separation. So just having read Shark Heart, this kind of feels like similar to it in the sense that in Shark Heart you have this couple and they're separating because of a genetic mutation that's going to turn him into a great white shark. In this scenario, you have a couple. They're not married, but they are together, and she decides she wants to go to Mars. So she shares that dream like with Amelia wanting to go to Mars. The main character in Girlfriend on Mars wants to go to Mars. So there is a separation that takes place. And it is also told dual perspectives. So you get his and hers perspectives. I'll talk more about it when I do the tag, but I think that this is a great book. It's satirical, so it has every stereotype. Everybody gets made fun of in this novel. Feels like it's like a little bit of a romp. I don't know that it's going to be a full like romp, but it's a little bit of a romp, and I think it's fun. Um, I especially like that it makes fun of vegans, and I'm a vegan, and I can laugh at myself. Like, I see things about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, yep. And I just have such a fun time laughing at myself and some of the characteristics, some of the stereotypes of vegans and veganism, and it's funny, it's hilarious. So I'm enjoying it. And then I also am still reading Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. Chatty has been my buddy reading partner for this, and I think she's done with it. But she has been so patient and gracious as I'm still trying to get through it. I'm just taking my time with it. Usually read it on my lunch break, a little bit at a time. And it's been really, really good. This is an important book. I'm almost done. I'm probably going to finish this in the next week. And I think I'm going to love it. It's going to be a 4 or 5-star read. And I'm really glad I'm reading it. Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I do want to say, though, that I think I like Transcendent Kingdom better. As I'm almost going to finish this one, I think I really prefer Transcendent Kingdom. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but let me know in the comments what you think if you've read Transcendent Kingdom. And then I also, for those reading those tags that I'm working on, compiling answers for, I reread the titular story, The Paper Menagerie, in this collection of short stories by Ken Liu. I love The Paper Menagerie. I love Ken Liu's writing overall. And I read the Paper Menagerie story this week and was just in tears. And it's like the third time I read it, and it still brings me to tears. So I'll talk more about Ken Liu in a little bit, but yeah, that's been current. And then I'm still reading Girl on Film, the graphic novel by Cecil Castellucci. I started it at the end of February for Filmtastic February, and I have it in my TV room, and I kind of just pick it up when I'm there. So I haven't. It's not a book that travels with me, and I haven't been picking it up as for long periods of time. So I just been reading it very slowly in small bits and pieces. But I am enjoying it. So TBR. Okay, I'm back with the TBR portion of this video. So initially in the month of April, I thought, I don't want a TBR. I just want to mood read and finish up books that I have already started or have been on my TBR for a long time. April is my pre-birthday month, and sometimes in the month of April, I like to clear out my TBR. I like to be able to get things off that are or my current reads shelf, like get things that I've been slow to read and maybe give them a little bit more time, prioritize them so that way I can mark them as complete and they don't go into my next year. So my birthday is kind of like a new year mindset for me. So that's the way I was coming into April, thinking no TBR. I had initially thought I'm going to do a bingo to share on my community post and let you know the books that are on my current reading shelves or that I've started and really want to prioritize getting read. And I made that, but then as I kept changing it up, and then I started feeling very moody, and I thought, you know what? I think I just want to mood read. For example, I've been working on these tags that I was tagged in, and I'm so grateful to have been tagged. And thank you to people who've recently found my channel and subscribed. I'm at 70 subscribers, and I didn't expect to, have so much growth in such a short amount of time, but I think it's because of the tags. And I'm very grateful to anybody who's tagged me in a video or mentioned my channel. And so I'm working on these tags that I'm really excited about. There's some really great tags that I've been tagged to do and I'm working on. And like I mentioned, I read Girlfriend on Mars because of a tag that just kind of prompted me to get this read because I thought it would fit a prompt. And I read the Paper Menagerie because I also thought I think this would fit well with this prompt, but I want to reread it just to make sure. And then when I was reading the Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu, it sent me down a Ken Liu rabbit hole. And then I realized I didn't know, and I may so sorry. I may feel like I'm the only person or the last person to know that Ken Liu is the translator of The Three Body Problem. My husband and I just started watching the Netflix series this week, and I really want to read The Three Body Problem. Is it about Singapore? Maybe I'm wrong. The Bird Woman's Palette by Laxmi Pamuntjak. I don't think it's Singapore. I think it might be Indonesia, but it's I got confused there with another one. But that one, the Bird Woman's Palette, is one that I would like to prioritize sooner rather than later, probably in the months of April or May. And I was looking at other books by Asian authors that I want to read. So I also have I'm preparing for Supper Club this weekend. I'll probably try to do a video later about Supper Club. But it is a Filipino-themed supper club that we're doing this month. And I am cooking up some Filipino recipes from my favorite Filipino cozy murder mystery series. So this is the book that I have next to read in the series, the Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery series. It's a cozy mystery by Yaa P. I am on book 4. I haven't started it yet, but I'm actually cooking recipes for tomorrow's supper club from book 2. And this one is on my list as one. And because we're focusing on Filipino food for supper club, I want to read a couple of Filipino authors. So I'm going to be trying to read this one this month. And then also Elaine Castillo I read America is Not the Heart years ago, but she also has a nonfiction, How to Read Now by Elaine Castillo. And I am going to want to see if I can get that read this month for like the Filipino. It's kind of my own unofficial supper reading club. I'm inviting my friend for supper. She's not doing the reading with me, but I'm kind of like, okay, if I'm going to be doing like Filipino themed food for the month of April, I want to also be reading some Filipino authors. So those are 2 authors. One, well, that one is already on my shelves. The How to Read Now, I think I may have audio or ebook for it. And then I have this one. It just turns out that in Spanish booktube, April is Abril Asiático. So it's the Asian readathon. And I think I might prioritize Asian reading, Asian authors, and Asian books in Asian settings during the months of April and May. So I have this collection of short stories, Josee, the Tiger, and the Fish by Seiko Tanabe. And I've only read the first story in this collection. So the next one is I Always Had a Feeling. And I am going to read that short story. I want to read that short story during the month of April. And I talked about Eleanor Roosevelt, You Learn by Living. So I read Kate Quinn's The Diamond Eye, and I immediately wanted to read something by Eleanor Roosevelt. So this is one that I have on my shelves, been wanting to read, and I'm going to try to read it. This actually would fit for People April unintentionally. I didn't want to join any readathons because I didn't want to commit to doing a lot of prompts, and I was trying to keep my commitments low. But I am in the mood to read this, and it might be my nonfiction book, and it might be fitting for People April. So it just ticks a lot of boxes. Like, I'm in the mood for it. It's nonfiction. I like to have the nonfiction going. It's People April, and I just read Kate Quinn, and it is in conversation. It might be in conversation with, like, at least the Eleanor Roosevelt being a character in that novel by Kate Quinn. And then, hi, so I'm editing this video, and this video has been so PC and so, like, I think I just rambled on way too much. So I had to cut a lot of like rambling. And I am going to have to end this like video with buddy reads, because I made some mistakes when I was talking about book clubs and buddy reads. And so that's the last part of like what my reading looks like in April. Now, I recorded this video at the beginning of April. Now we're mid-April. It's April 16th. I had some technical difficulties, so I wasn't able to post it right away. I still want to post it because I felt like I did a lot of work and I spent a lot of time planning this video and recording. But in terms of what I'm involved in the month of April for buddy reads and book clubs, here we go. So I already finished, but I would have said I will be reading Death Comes to the Archbishop with Melinda from A Web of Stories. We started that book last week, and I've already finished it. I'm still going back. I listened to it and then have the Kindle, so I finished the audio, but I finished the Kindle as well, but I'm going back and like annotating and sending her notes on like different things that stood out. So that's what I'm working on. My book club, my in real life book club with friends, we're reading How to Be Eaten by Maria Edelman. And I think we'll probably be meeting for book club in May. So that's something that I'll be reading this month in preparation for that book club meeting in May. And then another in real life book club with my local indie is The Barbizon. We're reading this book, The Barbizon. It says The Hotel That Set Women Free, and it has a blurb by Stacy Schiff. Stacy Schiff says, a stylish, charming history of a unique institution, one that allowed a woman to survive without either marrying someone or cooking him dinner. So we're meeting for book club at the end of the month. I still haven't started it, but I will start it probably this week. And I discovered that my friend Marty, the bookstore owner, she put the two bookmarks that I purchased when I purchased this book in here, and I just discovered them. So yeah, this is when I'm reading for book club, and I think that's it in terms of buddy reads and book clubs. Thank you so much for watching. When I recorded this video a couple of weeks ago, I said I was at 70 subscribers and I'm at 73, and I've said numbers don't matter, and numbers don't matter to me, but people do. So the amount of views and the likes and all that stuff doesn't matter to me, but the people who are watching, people like you who are giving me their time and caring about what I'm reading, that's really valuable to me. I really value that. So thank you. I appreciate your time and your support of my reading life, and I can't wait to get back to you with another video. I did also record a video about Supper Club that I haven't posted. I recorded it the same day that I recorded this one. So I'll work on that later and hopefully still get to post it, even though Supper Club has passed and it was very delicious. And I have some tags I've been working on, so hopefully those will be coming to you soon now that my technical issues, I think, have been resolved. So thanks again for watching, and hasta la próxima.